Good evening, everyone. It's 6 p.m. on March 24th, and I'll call a meeting of the Town Council to order. If we could please take a moment of silence to reflect on all those affected by the situation in Ukraine and around the country today, many of whom have paid the ultimate sacrifice. Thank you all. In accordance with Mass General Law, tonight's meeting is being audio and video recorded. I would ask if anyone in the audience is recording, if you could please identify yourselves.
I don't see anybody, Mike.
Thank you. Tonight's meeting is being held virtually through a Zoom webinar pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. Our first agenda item this evening under public comments. Jeannie, do we have anyone signed up?
No, we don't.
Okay, we'll move along to council comments. And I don't see anyone with any comments at this point in time. Mary, wasn't expecting a report this evening, but just thought I'd check to see if you do have anything.
Author a report this week for this meeting, Mike. I do have an update on 70 Maple, but it's later on in the agenda, so we can just wait.
Okay.
Thank you, though.
Thank you. So we'll move to approval of the minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the May 10th, 2022 open session minutes.
I move to approve the May 10th, 2022 open session minutes.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion regarding those minutes? I'm hearing and seeing none, so we'll roll call vote, starting with Marilyn.
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Sid?
Yes.
And Connor?
Yes.
Ralph?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. If I miss anyone, please don't be afraid to chime in. And I did miss somebody right here. Sorry, working with a rather small screen here. Don, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Yes.
Thank you. And we'll move for approval of the a motion to approve May 10th, the executive session minutes.
I move to approve the May 10th, 2022 executive session minutes.
Second.
Thank you both. I'm a yes. Marilyn?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Sid?
Yes.
Ralph?
Yes.
Connor?
Yes.
And Don?
Yes.
Thank you. We don't have anything under communication and correspondence this evening, but as you all know, we do have a public hearing scheduled for 6:15 and are well within the parameters to start that meeting. Before we start, I would just like to congratulate Mary on the work that she did and the Financial Oversight Committee. We all know that not having state funding finalized and a lot of these subjects came up when Mary first submitted that budget to the council quite a ways back. But the state funding, the governor's amounts fluctuating based on legislator, property values, new growth, unknown revenue based on meals tax contributions certainly makes this budget challenging. So again, thank you all for being able to work through that. I did want to mention something from the charter here. There are, I'm sure, new people in the audience that don't realize exactly how this whole process works, but the Financial Oversight Standing Committee is comprised of up to 3 council members and up to 3 town residents, and it will be responsible for working with the town manager and the department heads to review the town manager's proposed annual budget and capital plan and its recommendations to the full council, which is obviously why we're here this evening. So some of the responsibilities that the Financial Oversight Committee contribute, which is created by the town council as a committee for the town council to do a lot of the heavy lifting and really look in all these areas and go through everything with a fine tooth comb so they can make the best recommendation possible to the council prior to us voting. So the purpose is to review on behalf of the town council and draft the draft of the FY town budget, both operating and capital, revolving and enterprise funds, and make recommendations to the town council of any changes to the draft budget for the council to consider in its deliberations regarding the budget and its vote authorizing the final approval of the FY fiscal year budget. This year, obviously, we're working with 2023. So authorized by the town council to conduct a review of the draft budget and to contact on behalf of the town council, the town manager, department head, boards, including school board, the school administration, as needed, discuss and investigate the budgets in order to develop the committee's recommendations to the full council. So again, that is why we're here this evening. Before I open the public hearing, I would just like to thank Dawn, who is our newest member this year on the committee, and talk just a little bit briefly about the personnel that are representing our FOC to help the council through this process. Dawn Starks brings 7 years, a minimum of 7 years, and correct me if I'm wrong, going back with the Appropriations Committee. I believe you chaired the Charter Commission, Finance Chair at Brownstone Garden, and you certainly, I think everyone in town knows that you managed a longstanding business in the community, Acres Power Equipment, for many years. So we appreciate your expertise. I'm going to move along to Chris Sagne. And Chris, from her education standpoint, a bachelor's in science from a local college, the fundamentals of real estate appraisal, principles of assessing procedures, a Department of Revenue course, which had to do with assessment and administrative law, the Department of Revenue course for the assessor's office procedures, continuing education specialty courses, University of Mass, and required continuing education courses spanning for 29 years. Chris's employment history from 2006 to 2018, assessor for the town of East Long Meadow and served as our chair. 2015 consulting assessor for the city of East Hampton. 2012 assessing consultant, city of Springfield. 2006 to 7 assessing consultant, that was for the city of Springfield. 2005 consultant, town of Montague, Princeton, and Stoneham. And 1986 to 2003 director of assessing for the town of Montague, which she's obviously retired from. Qualifications: Massachusetts accredited assessor, professional designation, classified as number 383, certified by the Massachusetts Department of Revenue. Just a little bit of personal information. Resident of East Long Meadow for, I think, about 58 years. Pretty close.
Yeah, let's see, 1964. Yes, 58 years this year.
Okay. Member and past president of Mass Association of Assessors Officers, former member and chair of the MAAO Legislative Committee, former chair of MAAO State-Owned Land Committee, former member of International Association of Assessing Officers, former member of past chair of East Long Meadow Appropriations Committee, along with Dawn, member and former chair Town Financial Oversight Committee, her contribution for many years, continuing with this evening, treasurer of the College Club of Springfield, Mass, and Scholarship Committee Chair, College Club of Springfield. So, Chris, thank you for your contribution. Moving on to Jim Broderick. Jim's a resident of East Long Meadow for almost 41 years, if I have those numbers right. Jim, close? I'll take that as a yes, even though you're muted.
Yes, you're close.
Thank you. Graduated from Dartmouth with an MBA from Harvard Business School. Worked in local banking from 1973 to 2012. Retired, starting with Springfield Institution for the savings, which is the SIS Bank, and ending with TD Bank North. Held various functional positions as SVP/regional manager for the commercial real estate lending. And under the town's previous form of government, was the former chair and member of the Capital Planning Committee and former chair, longtime member of the Appropriations Committee, and involved in various nonprofit organizations within the greater Springfield area. Jim, thank you for your contribution. Kathy, I think Kathy's been in town now approximately 38 years. Am I
Correct.
close on that?
Very
Yeah.
close.
Okay. Yourself and your husband raised 2 children in East Long Meadow, both East Long Meadow alumni and graduates from area colleges. Career middle level educator, 1974 to 2013. BS English secondary education, 1974. MED school administration, 1978. CAGS school leadership, 1998. Middle school teacher here in East Long Meadow, 1992 to 1997. Middle school principal here in East Long Meadow, 1997 to 2013. Board of Directors, New England League of Middle Schools, 2004 to 2020. Education consultant, 2013 to present. East Long Meadow Educator, Hall of Fame, 2018. And Kathy, like everyone else, thank you for your contribution. And something that's not on the list here is your contribution to obviously MSBA with the process of helping us work through a potential new high school in the future. Rich Ficero, high school principal, more than 30 years of recognized experience, administrator, teacher, coach. Just run through a couple items here. School committee member, East Long Meadow school system, that was 2011 to 2020. Elected to a 3-year term on April 2011. Adjunct professor, American International College, 2011 to present. Responsibilities include supervision of students, teachers, field-based research students, and administrative candidates. Boy, Rich, this could take a while, so I'm just going to highlight here. So again, principal, East Long Meadow High School, 87 to 2010, retired in June of 2010. Vice president, 1985 to 1987. House teacher at Brooklyn High School, 81 to 85. Teaching included English teacher, Brooklyn High School, 77 to 81. English teacher, 76 to 77. Academic teacher for special needs, 76 to 77. Coached hockey, coached football, both from 1974 to 85. Education credentials, master's plus 21, 83 to 2010, master's in education, Cambridge College, 1983, Bachelor of Arts, English and Psychology, 1973, and diploma with the Malden Catholic High School, top of the 1% class in Malden, Mass. Rich also has some special awards and publications. Principal of the Year, Massachusetts Consular Association, 2007. Guest lecturer, 2009, 2007, 1999, 1988, 1992, and 1989. State Forum on Education, University of Mass, Westfield State College, Department of Elementary and Secondary Education in Springfield College. I find it beneficial to let the general public know, the audience, everyone know how this, the people that are functioning on the board, the level of experience that they bring through this. And us on the council here, we're very happy to have these people assist in this process, which is obviously very important when putting a $66+ million budget together for the town. The last thing I wanted to mention is that the Financial Oversight Committee, I believe, following along, met starting on March 24th. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, and met for probably 20+ hours interviewing department heads and reviewing their budgets. Our Director of Finance joined every meeting to assist with the financial information, forecasting future obligations, bonds, tax data, state reimbursements, etc. Our town manager joined to discuss most of the meetings. The council's needs, individuals, members completed much of this legwork at home with the research that was being done and study of the information between meetings to make those meetings that they spent, as I mentioned earlier, approximately 20 hours to deliver the best product they can for tonight's meeting. So that being said, I can't say enough for the credentials that you bring and the experience that you bring, and we're very happy to have you assist this council with this major endeavor here, being our budget. So this public hearing is to present the town manager's proposed operating budget for fiscal year 2023 to the public for their comments as outlined by Article 6, Section 1 of the East Long Meadow Home Rule Charter. Our council members this evening are, I'm Michael Kane. We have Marilyn Richards, Kathy Hill, Sid Starks, Ralph Page, Connor O'Shea, and Don Anderson. Our next order is Jeannie. If you could please read the legal notice into the record.
Okay. The East Long Meadow Town Council hereby gives notice that it will hold a public hearing on May 24, 2022 at 6 p.m. via Zoom webinar to review the proposed fiscal year 23 operating budget as outlined by Article 6, Section 1 of the East Long Meadow Home Rule Charter. The proposed FY23 operating budget can be reviewed in the clerk's office or on the town's website. For the town council, Jean Arquagletti, town clerk of the council.
Thank you, Jeannie.
You're welcome.
So, Chris, I believe that you're going to recap and give us the information we need with, obviously all the legwork that you presented.
Yes, sir.
I want, again, it's just the amount of work. I know how much work you guys put into this, and the 20 hours was just in the form of a meeting, never mind all the work that you put in on the side. So the floor is yours, and we appreciate the report that you're about to bring forward.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. President Kane and members of the East Long Meadow Town Council. As the president stated, I am Chris Sonyer, co-chair of the committee, and the remainder of the committee is co-chair Jim Broderick, Richard Fischero, Kathy Hill, and Don Starks, who all worked very hard and contributed their expertise to our final decision. The following is our report on the fiscal year 2023 recommendations. Our committee has accomplished the charge given to us by the council. Over the past 2 months, we have met 9 times to review and research, and are now prepared to submit a recommendation on the town manager's proposed operating budget and capital budget for the upcoming year. The fiscal year 23 budget review has presented interesting challenges not encountered before. It is a unique budget year. We hopefully are in a post-pandemic period. In the last 2 budget seasons, a fiscally conservative approach was paramount because revenues were unknown. Employee furloughs and layoffs occurred, and then the receipt of federal monies from the American Rescue Plan, known as ARPA, and the educational ESSER funds added a new dimension to our review. We've met with the town manager, the director of municipal finance, and major department heads, public safety, DPW, and school committee members and administrators, and we greatly appreciate the cooperation we received this year. We agree with the new positions proposed. That is, a deputy fire chief, 4 additional EMT firefighters who will be paid from the ambulance fund, a lieutenant in the police department, accounting support staff, human resource staffing, which is sorely needed, recreation department support staff, and a part-time clerical position in the tax collector's office. There are restored and new positions in the school department whose needs were well explained. These include 2 adjustment counselors who were previously paid with ESSER funds who will now be transferred to the school operating budget. In addition, there are the following positions in the school: a high school assistant principal, a middle school student intervention coordinator, an elementary math coach, an elementary art teacher, and a preschool teacher to accommodate the new preschool model change. In this current year, $2,420,000 was received in ARPA grant funds. These monies were applied to needed water and sewer infrastructure projects in accordance with the grant rules. Effective April 1st of this year, ARPA grant rules were finalized and eligible uses substantially increased. We agree with the town manager's recommendation that these funds be used to fund 19 capital projects. These federal monies are a one-time grant. Using these monies, $2,318,000 to fund these improvements means that the town does not have to bond or incur debt, nor does the cost impact the tax rate. It is easing the burden on the operating budget and allowing the town to get back to pre-COVID staffing levels. The federal grant, stipulates that the funds must be obligated by December of 2024 and expended by December of 2026. So why not get started and fund these improvements sooner rather than later? The items include school parking lots, which will include drainage and paving, the Allen Street landfill foreclosure, which is required by the Department of Environmental Protection, equipment placement for DPW, police vehicles, IT devices for students, and a student info system software replacement. The payment, the truck lease for the fire rescue, and the list goes on. All of these items have been on a wait list to be funded. In addition, an exciting recreational project for the Heritage Park design in the amount of $495,075 is being funded through the Community Preservation Commission. It will be a multi-year project available for future grant applications to aid in the expense of the redesign. Generally, the town spends $1 million to $1.5 million on capital projects each year. The ensuing fiscal year 24, will be no different. Capital projects will be considered and prioritized. Last year, the tax rate went down by 77 cents. And since the tax rate is projected to go down again this year by 50 cents, funding capital projects in the following year in the amount of $1 million would impact the future tax rate by 42 cents. It seems fairer to the taxpayers to use the ARPA funds in the fiscal year that we receive them and give the taxpayers the benefit of a reduction in the tax rate for fiscal 23. With one exception, our committee recommends that the town manager's operating budget be adopted. The exception is line item 399, school committee stipend request of a 25% increase from $8,500 to $10,625, an increase of $2,125. This was determined to be a matter for the council's consideration because this budget item was discussed at last year's budget hearing. At that time, it was proposed that the town council conduct a study of the stipends of the town appointed and elected boards, committees, and commissions. We understand that the study is in the works and may be ready for discussion this fall. Therefore, we recommend adopting a budget of $66,670,451.86, which amends the town manager's proposed operating budget by a reduction of $2,125 to accommodate the stipend study. It is our consensus that the town manager's proposed operating budget was well prepared and in the best interest of the town going forward. Jim and I would once again like to thank the committee members, Rich Vaccaro, Kathy Hill, and Don Starks. We also thank the town manager, the director of municipal finance, public safety department heads, the DPW superintendent and his staff, the school committee members, and school administrators for the cooperation received during this whole process. We thank you for your consideration. We respectfully submitted Town Council Financial Budget Oversight Committee, James Broderick, co-chair, Christine Sonier, co-chair, Rich Vaccaro, Kathleen Hill, and Don Starks, Michael Kane, ex officio. And now I believe Jim is prepared to go over the financial analysis report for everyone's benefit and understanding. I thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
So this is an exhibit that we've shown in a couple of past reports, and it simply is a projection of what the mill rate would be projected to be based on the recommended budget, and also where we would project our reserves to be in fiscal year 23. So in fiscal year 22, we had a maximum levy capacity of 48 million. We're projecting, we calculate the maximum levy projection in FY23 is 49.7, which was an increase of 3.4%. That gives us an excess levy capacity of approximately 2.8 million, which is just a little bit more than FY22, with the tax levy that's being proposed as part of this budget of 46,963,000. So there is room. We don't have to tax to the maximum that the law allows. And this is probably the second or third year that we've been able to do that. Again, to make a calculation or projection of the mill rate, one has to figure out what the valuation of the real estate is. And we did go to the assessor's office to get a projection, and we were told very, very clearly that it is a projection. It's just nothing final, but projecting the valuation of the real estate would go up slightly from 2.236 billion to 2.372 billion. And based on that tax valuation, which is projected and not final, it would result in a mill rate of $19.79 for FY23, which would be 50 cents lower than FY22's $20.29. For the reserves, we usually look at this in terms of as a percent of the proposed operating budget, the general fund budget. The balance in our free cash as of 7/1/21 was 5.6 million. It would be great if it were 5.6 billion. But in any event, that was represented 8.5% of our operating budget, which was very healthy. There were uses of that free cash since that period that it was certified. The biggest single use being a $1 million transfer from free cash to the OPEB trust fund, which I think, again, is a very appropriate way of being able to fund that as opposed to trying to squeeze any kind of contributions or transfers out of an operating budget. So the uses of the free cash so far were $1,215,000. So the effective free cash remaining is 4.4 million, or 6.6% against our proposed FY23 general fund budget. Typically, when we think of reserves, we also add in our stabilization fund, which is another form of reserves that the town has. And as of 4/30/22, the balance in the stabilization fund was 3.5 million. So for totaling those two together equals 7,925,000 for 11.9% against our proposed operating budget. We used a small amount, or this budget calls for using a small amount, $53,000 from free cash to balance out the funding of the recommended capital projects. So it's the ARPA funds, it's the Community Preservation Committee's funding of the design study, and then $53,000 remaining from free cash. So that would, with that deduction, we would project having a reserves of 7.872 million, or 11.8%, which is very healthy. We've always tried to struggle to stay between 5 and 10%. So the town is in a very healthy position, projected to be, and it's nice to be able to report that. Just an FYI, the OPEB trust fund balance at this point is $10.8 million. And our liabilities as of the FY21 audit was 66 million. So unfunded liabilities at that point are 56 million. So it's, the OPEB is something that continues to go up fairly rapidly. But I think, as I understand it, and we have been told, East Long Meadow is in relatively good shape compared to other towns in the Commonwealth. So those are the kind of the projections of mill rate and the projection of reserves.
Thank you, Jim. Anyone else from financial oversight, Chris?
I have no further comment. As I said before, it was an interesting year because of the receipt of the federal monies that came into the town and the one-time opportunity to take care of these capital projects that have been out there. And I think, as Jim said, we're in good shape. We think this is a reasonable budget, and we submit it for your consideration.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. Don, I'm going to take a look over here at our participants.
Okay.
And you know, what I'm looking for obviously is hands up to see if anyone wants to join the public portion of the meeting, which I'm opening right now. And I do not see any hands up at this point, but I'd like you to take a look as well, just so that nobody's left out.
Yeah, I agree. I see nobody.
Okay, so nobody
My
wishes
hand,
to.
Mike?
Mary.
Okay,
I'm looking at the list of participants and attendees too, and I want to thank each and every one of the department heads who's here tonight. They were asked last week at our department heads meeting to make themselves available, and they have, and I'm appreciative of that fact. The budget reserves and the free cash turnbacks and the reasonably fiscally sound budget is in large measure due to all of them and the sacrifices they've made throughout the last fiscal year to keep the town operating in what I consider to be tip-top shape at great sacrifice to them and some of their staff. So they all deserve a great deal of thanks, I believe, from the community, and they get it from me, and I trust they'll get it from the council and the Financial Oversight Committee as well. The only other comment I wanted to make about the budget is how important it is to fully return to the staffing levels that we've operated without in the last couple of years, and to be able to establish our budget priorities of public safety, Department of Public Works, police, fire, and education. And we've also been able to try to treat our employees fairly by settling their labor contracts and trying to be as generous as the town can be under the circumstances. But also with the OPEB contributions, we're trying to take care of their future fiscal health as well. So thank you, everyone, for all that you did to get this done this year. I'm very pleased with the outcome, and I really want to thank the department heads as I look down my list. I'd like to
They're all
name
there.
them all, but they're there and you can see them. So thank you, everyone.
They certainly are. So I am closing the public portion of the public hearing this evening, and I'm going to open up for any council comments that might want to be made. And before I open the floor up, I just want to make a comment that kind of dovetails off what Mary just said. And most of the residents don't realize that one of Mary's goals was a succession plan. And a succession plan, in my opinion, has been demonstrated this evening when we talk about police and fire. And the only thing I can say is succession offers continuity and provides opportunity from within the department. So I'm all for that. It serves two purposes, complementing the town and the employees and satisfying one of Mary's goals this council set for her, which was a succession plan. So that being said, any questions from the council, we can direct to Chris, Jim, or whoever might be able to answer those questions you might have. Connor.
Thanks, Mike. Not so much a question, but I suppose just more of a comment. The thing in the presentation that was left to the council's discretion being the school committee stipend. I mean, first of all, I think the budget process went pretty smoothly this year, and I'm happy to see that it came to a pretty good conclusion. So thank you all for that. But as far as the school committee stipend, I mean, I understand that there's potentially a study to review all of this, but I think it's something that needs to be settled sooner than later, especially since we're really only talking about a couple $1,000s. I mean, there's always been a long-standing rift between the town council and the school committee, and I think it would send a strong message that we're treating them as equals if we approve their stipend request. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathy?
Thank you. First, I would respectfully disagree with Connor's use of the word rift, because I understand what he's trying to say. I personally feel that label is a little too strong for the relationship that the school department and the town council have endeavored to create or maintain. Underscored this year by the immense collaboration with the school administration and the school committee reps who met with us. Professionalism, transparency, I can't say enough about that. And as far as setting aside that one line item, we, the Financial Oversight Committee, on 2 occasions were upfront with the folks on the school side that I just made reference to, and said, because this study is in the works and being undertaken by a bylaw first, which will create a periodic study of all elected, unelected boards and commissions stipends, much like we did when we had to review licensing fees a few years back that had not been addressed since 1989. The purpose of that bylaw will be to stabilize and normalize and make equitable stipends to acknowledge the efforts of the folks that come forward and do this work. But back to what I was my statement about trying to be forthright with the school chair and the school administration, school committee chair, that piece might not in the end gain our support for this 1 year until this necessary work is done. And to their credit, they said they understood and that their priority, and it's fair to give them credit for this, has always been the students, and they felt that that was a way higher priority and need for them than a bump in their stipend this year. And I want to make sure the public understands that they will still get the stipends that are already in the operating budget. The only thing that's being set aside is the requested increase. And hopefully next year at this time, that bylaw will be in place. However, the subcommittee is formed, will do its work in enough time to make a recommendation to next year's Financial Oversight Committee. The end.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathy. Jim?
Jim, you're muted.
Just one other point I wanted to, part of our discussion was having the stipends have to be recommended by each board and each, elected group rather than as a kind of a coordinated part. And we don't necessarily say that the school committee stipend should not, it doesn't deserve to be increased 25%. I think in a vacuum, it seems like it makes more sense for the town to look at all of these stipends and update all of the stipends and then set some kind of periodic time frame that we do it again, rather than each board having to come up with their own recommendation. And I would agree if whoever's on the financial oversight and town councilors next year, if we come to another year and nothing's been done in that regard, well, then maybe one might have to reconsider that thought process. But that was kind of the thinking, was let's do it as a coordinated whole, then a one shot here, one shot there.
Okay. Jim, thank you. Any other comments from the council at this point? Ralph?
Mike, I just wanted to chime in and thank the Financial Oversight Committee. I was extremely impressed. Mary, the budget was phenomenal. I think everyone jumped in, did their jobs. You know me, I'm nitpicking at every little thing, and truthfully, I didn't find anything to nitpick. Hats off to you guys. Awesome job, and we greatly appreciate it. And Steve, that goes for you too. It's not just the counselors and our town manager. Great job, everyone, and I'm just so impressed. Thank you.
Thanks, Ralph. Steve, I mentioned it earlier, but I want to say it again. Thank you as well for assisting through the entire process. I know you made yourself available for the meetings, and I know how much the committee appreciated your time and efforts. So thank you. No more comments at this point. I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing. I'll be looking for a second, and then we'll roll call vote. And that will follow with 17 motions that need to be adopted this evening.
I second your motion, Mike.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second discussion on this subject matter. I'm hearing and seeing none. I'm going to start at the top with myself. I'm a yes. Marilyn?
Yes.
In fact, what I'm going to do is I made a list. So I'm not going to have to look at the screen with everybody bouncing around while we do 17 motions here. I can go right down my list. So it might sound a little redundant, but because we're going to follow the same order, but we're going to get it done and get it done right. So that being said, Kathy?
Yes.
Sid?
Yes.
Ralph?
Yes.
Connor?
Yes.
And Don?
Yes.
Thank you all. Okay, I'm going to make a motion now that I move the town vote to raise and appropriate $65,305,492.86 for the purpose and charges in anticipation of revenue for the 12-month period beginning July 1, 2022, in accordance with the general laws, Chapter 44, Section 4, and all the acts and amendment thereof, and including in addition thereto, Chapter 849 of the Acts of 1969, as mentioned, for the operation of the town departments as contained in the Town of East Long Meadow operating budget, as printed in a chart with this presentation, a copy of which is attached to this motion and is made a part hereof by reference entitled General Fund Uses, General Fund Operating Budget, Fiscal Year 2023.
I second that motion.
Okay, motion and second. Discussion? Hearing and seeing none. Back to my list. I am a yes. Marilyn,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Sid,
Yes.
Ralph,
Yes.
Connor,
Yes.
and Don.
Yes.
Thank you. And we're going to move to our second motion.
Mr. Broderick has a question.
I very much apologize. I just wanted to verify that the 65,305 is less the $2,125 increase. That is not, that's not consistent with what we recommended.
Okay, I'm gonna defer to Steve. We did have some conversations earlier today, but Steve, are you prepared to?
The
Answer.
65,305 is the amount that was submitted with Mary's budget, so it is not net of the 2125 that the Oversight Committee recommended.
So which budget is the town council voting on? Oh, sorry, I don't mean to get involved in that.
The Jim, to your point, the motions that we created for open meeting rules was the one that Mary submitted. If the council changes them at any point, the amount at any point, they would vote on the corrected amount, and then that would be reflected on a clean motion, for lack of a better term.
Kathy?
Thank you. Based on what Steve has just offered to us, I move to rescind the votes taken on motion number 1.
I'll second that motion to rescind.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? So we're going to amend a motion and
No.
No, I think,
Rescind.
rescinding the motion. Okay, this is going to the back of the pile. Motion 1 is rescinded and we'll move on to motion 2.
So we need a vote.
Mhm. So-
Mr. President, the purpose of my requesting a rescinding is so that we get that vote off the table, and then we ask our Director of Finance for the accurate number, and we start with a new motion 1 with the corrected figure.
Okay, so right now we're in the rescinding stage. There is a motion on the floor and there is a second, and this is a roll call vote required. So we will roll call vote, and I am a yes. Marilyn,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Sid,
Yes.
Ralph,
Yes.
Connor,
No.
and Don.
Yes.
Okay. So another motion is in order to amend motion 1, and the only change is going to be the dollar number. Is that correct?
That's how
And-
I would understand it, but we need Mr. Lonergan's math to help us out. here.
Amended number.
Oh, we're in trouble. If we're taking the 2,125 out, the amended amount would be $65,303,367.86.
Okay, and that's less, for the record, how much was deducted?
$2,125.
All right, stand by 1.
So Mike, can I ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
So why does that number differ from what the Financial Oversight Committee has recommended? Which means which they recommended adopting a budget of 66,670,451.86. So I mean, we're talking $1.3 million difference.
Steve can answer that.
Yeah, the council, the difference is that there are motions that follow this. For example, the valuation of 53,000, capital, if we had the capital amount for the general fund, it's the very last page of the source and usage. What we're voting here is the general fund only.
Perfect. Just thank you for the clarification.
No problem.
Okay, so the difference is $2,125. So I'm going to read the entire motion. Once again.
Excuse me, Mr. President, what's the exact number we're voting on before you start the breathless motion?
65,303,367.86 if my calculations are correct.
Okay. Correct?
And that's what I was checking over here. Okay, so if we're all in agreement with that, I'll read the motion again. I'm making a motion. I move the town vote to raise and appropriate $65,303,367.86 for the town purposes and charges in anticipation of revenue for the 12-month period beginning July 1, 2022, in accordance with general laws, Chapter 44, Section 4, and all the acts and amendment thereof, and including, in addition thereto, Chapter 849 of the Acts of 1969, as amended for the operation of the town departments as contained in the Town of East Long Meadow operating budget as printed in a chart with this presentation, a copy of which is attached to the motion and is made a part of hereof by reference, entitled General Funding Use, General Fund Operating Budget, Fiscal Year 2023.
I second that motion.
Okay, a motion and second. Discussion on the motion. I'm hearing and seeing none. We'll roll call vote. I'm a yes. Marilyn,
Yes.
Kath,
Yes.
Sid,
Yes.
Ralph,
Yes.
Connor,
Yes.
and Don.
Yes.
Thank you. We are moving to motion number 2, and I believe Don has that motion.
I move the town vote to raise and appropriate $100,000 to be added to the stabilization fund account number 8216 for fiscal year 2023 for the purpose of setting aside funds for future expenditures.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Discussion. Hearing and seeing none. I'm a yes. Marilyn,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Sid,
Yes.
Ralph,
Yes.
Connor,
Yes.
and Don.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion 3.
I move the town vote and to raise and appropriate $100,000 to be added to the other post-employment benefits liability trust, OPEB, number 8225 for fiscal year 2023.
I'll second that motion.
All right, a motion and a second. Discussion. Seeing none. I'm a yes. Marilyn,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Sid,
Yes.
Ralph,
Yes.
Connor,
Yes.
and Don.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you. Motion 5, please.
4.
Motion 4.
4.
4.
Okay.
Oh, to 50,000, right? Is that
Yeah.
just
Yep.
correct?
Correct.
Make sure.
Mr. President, I move the town vote to raise and appropriate $50,000 to fund the compensated absences reserve account number 8226.
Okay. And I'm supplying the second, so I will second that motion. Discussion. And so we'll start with a roll call. I'm a yes. Marilyn,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Sid,
Yes.
Ralph,
Yes.
Connor,
Yes.
and Don.
Yes.
Motion 5, please.
I move the town vote to raise and appropriate, transfer and reappropriate and borrow for capital projects for the 2023 fiscal year, a total sum of $3,979,478.25 for the purposes and in the amounts set forth in the chart published with the presentation, a copy of which is attached to this motion and is made a part hereof by reference, entitled FY 2023 Capital Projects as follows. Raise and appropriate for general fund capital projects, $0. To be raised from and paid for from the town's ARPA funds, $2,382,889.53. To be voted and paid for from free cash, $53,224.47, and to be transferred and paid for from Community Preservation Fund, $495,075 for a total of $2,931,189 for general fund capital projects.
Page 2.
I think we have a second page, right?
We do. To be bonded and paid from the Sewer Enterprise Fund, $574,275 for Sewer Enterprise Fund for a total of $574,275 to be bonded and paid from the Water Enterprise Fund, $290,281 for Water Enterprise Fund for a total of $290,281 to be paid from the Ambulance Fund, $183,733.25.
I second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion.
Mike, just a quick, and this is for Steve. Halfway down, it says to be voted and paid for from free cash. So am I assuming that this motion covers that vote?
It should, yes. That's why you put it out. The other part, like with the ARPA, is more of, I talked to our auditors and they said put it as more of a memo, but you have to vote the free cash to have it go into, it's a reserve for future expenditure, so we can use it for next year.
I just wanted to make sure that we didn't have to vote separately on the free cash along with this.
I don't believe so.
Perfect.
Okay. If there's no other discussion and I don't see any hands up. Yes, Marilyn,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Sid,
Yes.
Ralph,
Yes.
Connor,
Yes.
and Don.
Yes.
Motion 6, please.
I move to maintain the water rates at $3.60 per 100 cubic feet for fiscal year 2023 as printed in the Department of Public Works rates and fees and recommended by the Board of Public Works. Said rate has been factored into the Water Enterprise Fund for fiscal year 2023.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. I'm a yes. Marilyn,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Sid,
Yes.
Ralph,
Yes.
Connor,
Yes.
and Don.
Yes.
Motion 7, please.
I move to increase the sewer rates from $3.70 to $3.75 per 100 cubic feet for fiscal year 2023 as printed in the Department of Public Works rates and fees and recommended by the Board of Public Works. Said rate has been factored into the Sewer Enterprise Fund for fiscal year 2023.
Second.
Discussion. Yes. Marilyn,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Sid,
Yes.
Ralph,
Yes.
Connor,
Yes.
Don.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion 8, please. And that's my motion. I move the town vote to approve the FY 2023 stormwater fee schedule as printed in the Department of Public Works rates and fees and recommended by the Board of Public Works. Said rate has been factored into the Stormwater Enterprise Fund for fiscal year 2023.
Second.
Discussion? Yes. Marilyn,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Sid,
Yes.
Ralph,
Yes.
Connor,
Yes.
Don.
Yes.
Thank you. And motion 9.
I move the town vote to raise and appropriate $3,412,796 to the Water Enterprise Fund for fiscal year 2023 as printed in the presentation, a copy of which is attached to this motion and is made part hereof by reference entitled Water Enterprise Fund.
Second.
Okay, discussion? Yes. Marilyn,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Sid,
Yes.
Ralph,
yes,
Connor,
Yes.
and Don.
yes,
Thank you. Motion 10, please.
I move the town vote to raise and appropriate $2,540,168 to the Sewer Enterprise Fund for fiscal year 2023, as printed in the presentation, a copy of which is attached to this motion and is made a part hereof by reference entitled Sewer Enterprise Fund.
I'll second that motion.
Discussion? Yes. Marilyn,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Sid,
Yes.
Ralph,
yes,
Connor,
Yes.
Don.
yes,
Thank you. Motion 11, please.
I move the town vote to raise and appropriate $301,750 to the Stormwater Enterprise Fund for fiscal year 2023 as printed in the presentation, a copy of which is attached to this motion and is made a part hereof by reference entitled Stormwater Enterprise Fund.
I'll second the motion. Discussion? Yes. Marilyn,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Sid,
Yes.
Ralph,
yes,
Connor,
Yes.
and Don.
yes,
Thank you. 12, please.
I move the town vote to raise and appropriate $216,500 to the LCAT Enterprise Fund for fiscal year 2023, as printed in the presentation, a copy of which is attached to this motion and is made a part hereof by reference entitled LCAT Enterprise Fund.
second,
Discussion? Yes. Marilyn,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Sid,
Yes.
Ralph,
Yes,
Connor,
Yes.
and Don.
yes,
Thank you. Motion 13, please.
I move the town vote to reauthorize revolving funds for various town departments appropriate pursuant to the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53E and 1/2 for fiscal year 2023 as follows. The Solid Waste Disposal Revolving Fund authorized to spend by the Health Department. Revenue source would be sale of trash bags and recycling rebates. Use of funds, salaries, expenses, supplies, and contractual services to operate the solid waste disposal and recycling program. And the FY spending limit will be $174,948. The Council on Aging revolving fund authorized to spend is the Council on Aging. The revenue source, General Council on Aging programs and events such as fitness room memberships, exercise class fees, and other event fees. Use of funds for salaries, expenses, and contractual expenses to operate these programs at the Council on Aging, and the FY spending limit for that fund is $21,390.
Second.
Discussion? Yes. Marilyn,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Sid,
Yes.
Ralph,
yes,
Connor,
Yes.
Don.
yes,
Thank you. Motion 14, please.
I move the town vote to raise and or appropriate $576,139 by borrowing or otherwise for the construction, reconstruction, and or maintenance of public ways to be expended under the jurisdiction of the Department of Public Works, and said sum to be reimbursed by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Second.
Discussion? Yes. Marilyn,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Sid,
Yes.
Ralph,
yes,
Connor,
Yes.
and Don.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion 15, please. And that's my motion. I move the town vote to accept the recommendations of the Community Preservation Committee and appropriate from the Community Preservation Fund Reserve for fiscal year 2023 from the revenues estimated to be $300,000 for the purposes and amounts as follows. Administrative expenses, 5%. Historic Resource Reserve, 10%. Community Housing Reserve, 10%. Open Space Reserve, 10%. Undesignated General Reserve, 65%. And that the town transfer from the undesignated general reserve to the town's general fund to reimburse the town for the following. 1, pool bond payment of principal and interest, $40,600. 2, Brown property payment of principal and interest, $50,240.
I second that.
Thank you, Ralph. Discussion? Yes. Marilyn,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Sid,
Yes.
Ralph,
Yes.
Connor,
Yes.
and Don.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion 16, please.
I move the town vote to raise and appropriate $53,000 to be added to the Valuation Services Fund for fiscal year 2023.
Second.
Discussion? Yes. Marilyn,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Sid,
Yes.
Ralph,
Yes.
Connor,
Yes.
and Don.
Yes.
Thank you. And Connor, if you could do us to the honor of motion 17, please.
Sure. I move the town vote to authorize receipts reserved for appropriation for the ambulance fund pursuant to the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 5F for fiscal year 2023 as follows. Fund number 2907 in the ambulance fund salary, FY 2021 actuals 338,487.36, FY 2022 budget 837,563.17, FY 2023 budget proposed 1,133,477.02. Increase decrease dollars is 295,913.85, 35% increase. Under the non-salary fund name, FY 2021 actuals 267,650.60, FY 2022 budget 172,501.42, FY 2023 proposed budget 217,154.00, an increase of $44,652.58, or 26% increase, with the explanation being ambulance supplies, billing annual services, and intercept fees. Capital, no FY 2021 actuals, FY 2022 budget 135,774.47, FY 2023 proposed budget 183,733.25, a $47,958.78 increase, 35%. Explanation being life pack ambulance lease payment. The total fund name 606,137.96 is the FY 2021 actual. FY 2022 budget is 1,145,839.06. FY 2023 proposed budget is 1,534,364.27. The increase is 388,525.21, or 34% increase. The revenue fund name is negative 1,314,437.14 for the FY 2021 actuals. FY 2022 budget is negative 1,162,150.00. The FY 2023 proposed budget is negative 1,600,600.00, and decrease of negative 437,850.00, 38%. The net profit or deficit fund name is negative 708,299.18 for FY 2021 actuals. FY 2022 budget is negative 724,610.12. FY 2023 proposed budget is negative 790,245.85. With the increase decrease being negative 65,635.73.
Second,
And the hands are going up. So we have a motion and a second on the floor. We're moving to discussion. And Steve, we'll start with you up in the corner. Come out of mute, please.
With negative, the way we present this is a profit is shown in brackets, which normally is negative in accounting thing, I guess, but that's actually showing a profit increase in FY 23, we're budgeting a profit of $790,245.85. The revenue is $1.6 million that we're expecting to get in for 23. So I hope that helps.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Kathy, you're going to dovetail off that?
That was what I
That's
was
right.
going to clarify.
Okay. So we understand the clarification of the numbers, but the numbers were read correctly. The numbers aren't changing. You were just providing clarification. Is everyone comfortable with the motion in the second? And I believe so. No further discussion on that. I'm a yes. Marilyn,
yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Sid,
Yes.
Ralph,
Yes.
Connor,
Yes.
and Don.
Yes.
All right, that takes care of 17 motions. Thank you all for your help with that. And if we move along here to old business, I believe Mary's going to give us an update on the situation on Maple Street.
Yes, let's see, Thank you. I couldn't tell if I was muted or not. I'll be brief. I just, last week at our meeting in executive session, we did discuss some negotiations regarding 70 Maple Street in terms of acquiring that property for the town. I did pursue that in a conversation with the attorney. His name is Greg May. He represents the owner of that property. And we had a telephone conference last Friday at which I followed up my email suggestion that the town was interested in purchasing the property, and I named a sum with some conditions. The conversation on Friday said, well, I need some people to get together to talk about this, and can we talk later on today? So we had two conversations on Friday, the second of which came back to us with a number that was extraordinarily in excess of what the town is willing to pay for this property, considering the contamination costs of cleanup. So the property owner said, well, all right, think about it and get back to me by Wednesday at close of business. But I thought that the counter proposal was so out of kilter with any sense of reasonableness that I did not respond by the close of business on Wednesday, and instead have pursued with our legal counsel in town the prospect of eminent domain taking or acquiring the property through tax title. Our treasurer's office is in the process of proceeding with tax takings for various properties in town, of which this is one. So that process is underway. And I'm waiting for a procedural update from Jesse Belcher-Timmy on all of the steps that are necessary to pursue an eminent domain taking. I have arranged for a title exam that's not been returned yet. I have a call into an appraiser who has expertise in this type of area. I'm waiting for a price proposal from him. And then we'll have to have a survey. So that's where it stands now. The town council obviously would have to continue to be informed and vote whether you want to proceed in this fashion, but it is the most facile way of acquiring that property. And then I think we would, obviously when you take a property by eminent domain, the landowner has a right to fair compensation. And I guess that's the key question with respect to 70 Maple. Their counteroffer had no consideration whatsoever for the responsibility for contamination. The cleanup costs is what I'm referring to there. So I think any debate in the future, if the town takes it by eminent domain, any contest about the fair market value that's due to the owner would have to consider the contamination costs. So that's all I have to report on that right now. I just want you to know it's in the offing, or at least it's been discussed with legal counsel. I think it's as I said, I think it's the most expeditious way to acquire that property. I do think there's other interest in that property, and I think that's why the counteroffer from the landowner was not as, let me say, it was not as cooperative as our first conversation was in terms of the town acquiring the property. So I think there's some negotiation going on, and rightly so on their part, with respect to other interested parties. So that's what I have to report to you. Be happy to answer any questions here or privately if you wish at some point during the next few days.
Okay,
Mary.
thanks, Mary. And I see a question from Sid.
Hi, Mary. Have they made any indication that they're going to pay their back taxes?
None. No, not any. In fact, I mean, it's all third-party information, but I've been told that they're not willing to spend another penny on the property, and that was why it was deemed to be available to either the town or other interested parties. But there's been, I mean, I've informed the attorney of record that the taxes are outstanding, and asked what their plans were, but got no response that was meaningful in any way.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. If there are no other questions, under summary, action items for the next meeting, I haven't formally sent anything out, but we are tentatively planning a meeting on the 31st, and that will be to conduct interviews, and that will be done in person, where myself and Jeannie right now are working on making sure that we have the room and the equipment to be able to do that. And also I'm waiting for confirmation from the Collins Center that background checks are complete prior to conducting these interviews. That being said, while I have everyone here, obviously the first week in June is June 7th, which we will be doing our elections. And when we move to our meeting on June 14th, the subject of the MLP will come up because we're all aware that we're running out of time. Ryan's aware of it. Don Mackey's aware. I've had conversations with Mary and Jeannie, but it's essential to have that done so that we don't use a year's timing. Connor, I saw your hand up.
Thanks, Mike. I was just going to ask, what time are we thinking on the 31st, and where would our in-person be location?
I can, equipment available. I would just say it's safe to say that, I'm trying to conduct this with a normal council meeting. In other words, date and time. So it would be on a Tuesday and it would be at 6 p.m. And I'm guessing either the COA or the school committee room, whichever is, Jeannie, you might have more information on that.
Yeah, I've already reserved the school committee conference room. It's available that night for our meeting. And Don's aware of everything too.
Okay, so everything's done on our end. It's a matter of me finishing communicating with the Collins Center and making sure that, as I said earlier, that the background checks have been completed and that the candidates that are being brought forward can make it at that date and time. But I feel, 90% confident that we'll be meeting on the 31st at 6 p.m. at the school committee. And then again, June 7th, our elections, followed by a regular scheduled council meeting on the 14th to include the agenda item for the MLP. Any other questions? So we don't have any executive session scheduled for this evening. So I'm showing 7:19 and we'll accept a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All right, we've got tons of seconds and and no discussion. So I'm a yes. Marilyn,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Sid,
Yes.
Ralph,
Yes.
Connor,
Yes.
and Don.
Yes.
Thank you all. We're adjourned at 7:20. Thanks for all your help.
Have a great
Thanks. Have a
evening.
good rest of your week.
You too.